Okay, we are live. Good morning, everyone. Senate Transportation Committee on a Tuesday morning. And we're going to continue and hope we can wrap up this bill. I think we got a few outstanding issues that we can wrap it up and continue and keep the Chair of Appropriations on schedule for us. With that, I guess we had a couple, I think Senator Chittenden and Senator Perchlik had some committee assignments to do on the outside or just, yeah, Senator Chittenden, go right ahead.
So in preparation for visiting Senate Natural Resources today at 11 a.m. regarding the Act 250 language in the T-bill, I reached out to Senator Campion, who is I know from being the chair on Senate Ed and is also on Senate Natural Resources. I just wanted to hear his thoughts on how I should best use my time. And in that discussion, I did consult with Senator Perchlik via email, and that helped me identify that I don't want to go to that committee misrepresenting where the Transportation Committee is. So in subsequent conversations with Michelle Boomhauer, I just want to say this is what I intend to announce to Senate Natural Resources at 11. If they're still taking the testimony, is that we have not voted on this language. What we heard back in early March from Michelle Boomhauer was it seemed to make sense, and I'll go through some of the reasons that were presented, and that we as a committee wanted the Committee of Jurisdiction over Act 250 to give us their opinion and thoughts. Does that sound reasonable to this committee? I just would hate to say that Senate Transportation presented as a group a different position or stance on this than what we truly feel each individually.
Michelle, are you with us this morning?
She's not. I don't see her, at least.
I'll get her.
Okay, yeah. See, just have her comment on it, and then we can move on if she's with us.
Senator, she's testifying.
Okay,
and
all right. Okay, so you have no interest in this, or Jane, Senator
Yeah,
Kitchen?
I think what we're recognizing here is that we're asking the committee with policy jurisdiction to recommend a position on this language. And once we're getting in, and I guess the what they have to feel comfortable is that this federally imposed process provides the same level of review and protection as Act 250. And in essence, what they're requesting for is the relief from doing a duplicate process that is essentially the same. Since we're not the experts on Act 250, I think we have to ask that committee to weigh in. And, you know, if in fact something isn't consistent or Act 250 provides something over and above what it's required under the federal environmental requirements, then that committee would have that working knowledge. So I think that's really why we're asking them to do it.
Is my understanding that the chair called from Natural Resources and said he would definitely take it up next session. And I think Michelle is all right with that. And I think, as Senator Chittenden said, it's something we can, work on next session.
Yeah, anything to do with somehow a perceived circumvention of state environmental is going to be with differing strong points of view.
That's right. Nothing wrong with that. No, we didn't spend a lot of time on it, no time on it. And so we want to make sure we go through the right, but he said he would take it up next January, and that's all we can ask. Okay, Anthea, are you with us this morning?
I am. Good morning.
Okay, good morning. All right. So what are you going to do this with us today? Who would you like?
So I'll take my guidance from the committee. I have circulated a draft strike all amendment that has changes that were made since the last time you looked at the language highlighted. We could look at those. I don't know if committee members had time to review that over the weekend and Monday, and if there's anything that has jumped out at them that needs to change. This has been edited, so you're in a good position to be able to move once you're comfortable with the bill and you know what's happening with the outstanding sections. And then you also have Chris Roop here today, and he has updated all of the financial information And one of those documents was included in the email I circulated on Friday, but he has like a full package of all sorts of money information, since, you know, you are moving things around a little bit from what the House had done. So those are, I think, the things that we have available to the committee. And I don't know if you want to do all of it or do it in a particular order. So
But what's the wishes of the committee? You want to start from one and, or we go over to taking care of a lot of issues or?
I don't want to revisit those we've closed out.
All right, so we'll just go to the ones we got to address. All right. Okay,
okay. So Liz, can you give me sharing access, please?
Are you gonna go through the side by side? Is that how you're gonna do it, Anthea?
The side by side has highlighting for all of the differences between the two. So I was just going to go to the strike all amendment version 1.2, which just has the few small editor changes from 1.1, and just go through what has changed since we were together on Thursday and Friday when we closed out most of the sections.
But those would still be highlighted in the section by the side by side.
They would. There will just be more highlighting in the
Right.
side by side.
Okay.
And I can jump between the two. I have both open on my screen. So the first change that you are going to see since the language you went at from Friday is just some grammatical changes from the editors, which I'll skip over, commas to semicolons. We'll stick with the stuff that's substantive. This is just highlighted in green to flag the fact that you haven't closed out the PEB rate design section 26, since that's what Senate Finance right now. Highway maintenance, this is the swap with the federal funds that you have to free up the additional T funds to use in fiscal year 2022, pulling away from what will be available in fiscal year 23. This is the increase in $150,000 that you have going to Mileage Smart to make that a $750,000 authorization as opposed to a $600,000 authorization. So these numbers on lines 9 and 10 have shifted by $150,000, one positive, one negative, from what was in the bill when it made it out of the House. And Chris has checked my math on this, and this looks correct to him.
okay, questions? Anytime someone has a question, just jump right in because I can't see everybody on the screen. So unless I hear something, we'll just continue on. Thank you.
Senator Manta, I did have a question.
Go ahead.
And I was looking at the side by side, Anthea, and this was sort of my question on an email to you. I'm trying to find it in the, I guess it is, it's this section 2, the summary.
Yep.
Has that always been on there, or and is this just something that you did have been doing and updating as we've gone along, or I just don't remember seeing this from before.
Yeah, so this is
Or
actually.
maybe I did, but I didn't know it was actually in the bill before.
So this has actually been something that's included in the T-bill every year that you have been here, because it was something that Senator Ash suggested including 3 years ago now. So it's been in the last 2 T-bills. And then Senator Kitchell brought this up early in your time working on the T-bill this year, including the summary. So it is following the exact same structure
Right.
as in previous years. And I worked with the Agency of Transportation to update all of the numbers and the locations where there are projects. So this is not doing anything that is not already done somewhere else in the T-bill or in the White Book. But for example, if you wanted to know how much was going to, and I'm using Park and Ride because it's the first one,
Yeah.
how much was going to Park and Ride this year and what that money was being used for, you wouldn't know that unless you looked at the T-bill, saw that it was adopting the transportation program, went to the Agency of Transportation's website, looked to the tab for Park and Ride, looked at it, and then sort of deciphered from the descriptions in there what was actually happening at different Park and Ride locations. So you wouldn't know from looking at the text of the T-bill that there was going to be the design for 62 spaces for a Park and Ride in Berlin. So this is summarizing a lot of what's in the White Book. And then it is also for some sort of other things that are not in the transportation program, summarizing them as well. So you'll see that there's reference to the Capital Construction Act from last year, because that's getting the additional federal money for the Lamoille Valley Rail Trail for the construction piece. You'll see in the public transit program, that there's reference to section 24, which is getting you the source of the federal funding for purposes of zero fare public transit. You'll see reference to section 25, which is having the agency deal with the intermodal connections. So there's nothing that is accomplished by this language that's not done through law in other places. This is merely summarizing those efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and save Vermonters money. And you can certainly have me change it around or delete sections or add sections. But this is something that I understood my marching orders to be, was to work with the agency to update it, but follow the format from prior years.
The heading, could we go back to the heading, please?
Yeah. And this is the same heading we've used in prior years. I just updated.
Yeah, I just wanted to check. I could only see page 3 and I couldn't see what went before it. I mean,
It's just about use and save Vermont households money, nothing else.
I know, that's why I was asking if I could see the full thing. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
I think it's a really great extraction of how many different and diverse investments that were made. So I felt it was helpful. I've used it, and so I would like to continue the practice.
Okay, anybody else? All right,
I believe you have lost Senator Perchlik, so hopefully I answered
okay.
this full question there.
Senator Perchik, you with us?
I do not see him on my screen. I think he got disconnected.
Okay. Well, let's continue on. And,
Okay, so I think everyone was good with the change in the highway maintenance numbers. The next change is just some capitalization from the editors, but this is where you're getting in the legislative intent for the repeal of the US Route 4 permit, that it's going to be effective.
Anthea, your screen is sharing your calendar.
Well, that's not helpful. Thank you. Am I sharing bill language now?
You are.
Okay, thank you. Now this will make more sense. So you'll see some capitalization from the editors. And this is where in your legislative intent language, you're getting that for the repeal of the US Route 4 permit, that it's January 1 of 2022. And then I'm just going to jump all the way to the end. We'll go back to where we were. But in your effective dates language, you're also getting section 6, the repeal of 23 VSA section 1432 subsection C shall take effect on January 1 of 2022.
so that means, essence, the permit will be done with January of 2022. And they have that amount, then the paving, we're going to do all the safety things we can do while they're paving. And so, but there'll be no quotas or anything that they had requested. Okay, good. Any
Correct.
questions about that, many committee members? Okay. Senator Pertwick back with us yet?
He's just joining now.
Okay. Senator Pertwick, are you on?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Hey, did you get upset with us and left or what? No.
Yeah, just I stormed off the
Okay.
internet.
All right. Okay. You heard about the
I'll
Woodstock.
talk to you separately about that section, Anthony. I knew the background. I just had you can go on.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So that is the changes to the Woodstock language. The next bit of highlighting that you will see, and I think that this is one that maybe needs a little bit more discussion, is section 7, which is the federal infrastructure funding. This now has more of a process laid out for how JTOC, the Joint Transportation Oversight Committee, will approve the use of the federal infrastructure funding if it comes in. So what this language is saying is, notwithstanding the statute sections that would prohibit this from doing in the adoption of the T-bill, if a federal infrastructure bill or other federal legislation that provides for infrastructure funding, so that would include some sort of replacement to the FAST Act, is enacted that provides Vermont with additional federal funding for transportation-related projects, the Secretary is authorized to, provided that it has gotten the approval from the Joint Transportation Oversight Committee pursuant to subdivision C2, which we'll see in a bit, of this section, the secretary is authorized to do a few things. Exceed federal money spending authority in fiscal year 2021, and this language will be effective on passage, and fiscal year 2022 in the transportation programs, and to obligate and expend federal monies and up to $2 million in state transportation fund monies on the development and evaluations, not construction. This is the engineering piece, for additional projects that meet federal eligibility and readiness criteria and have been evaluated through the agency's prioritization process, but are not in the fiscal year 21 or 2022 transportation program. Then
So
we're-
this lets projects to move forward more rapidly if more money comes in. I have a question. I assume this has gone to the editor. It seems a little clunky. Can you go back to the beginning of the
This
section?
has been to the editor, but we can certainly
What?
change it around.
Well, it seems like the secretary, with the approval from joint fiscal, blah, 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 is authorized to exceed federal. I would just put that after secretary.
So you want to move the part that's set off by the commas that's highlighted to after secretary and
Yes.
or is
Uh-huh.
authorized. Yep,
Uh-huh.
can certainly do that. Let me make a note.
I assume everybody okay with changing it, the secretary with the approval from the JTOC pursuant to blah, blah, blah,
Well,
is
you're-
authorized to exceed federal monies spending authority in fiscal year 21 and 22.
Give you the weekend off. You're pretty sharp on Tuesday. Wow.
I know. Does the period go inside the quotation marks? The answer is yes.
The editors would agree with you on that one.
Wow.
I
You're
know,
right.
well,
You're right.
I think it depends, but
Senator Kitchell, you're
obviously-
right. Okay. I know you hadn't heard that this morning, so we'll start off.
Let's just
Yeah.
get that right out of the way.
Yeah, let's get it off the agenda here. Okay.
Okay, so I'll move the highlighted language. Subsection B, nothing is changing here, but to refresh the committee's memory, this is saying that nothing in subsection A is authorizing the secretary to do anything with TIB funds above and beyond what's authorized for fiscal year 2021, so leaving the TIB funds alone. And for the transportation fund monies, it's only if the agency expects to accept and obligate federal monies under subsection A in an amount that's sufficient to cover the additional expenditures of the transportation fund monies. So it's in essence a loan. And it expects the projects for which state transportation fund monies are used to eventually be eligible for funding entirely through federal monies. So it's a project that's expected to be fully funded federally, but to get the project started, they would be able to use transportation fund money. So even within that, it needs to be capped at 2 million. It needs JTOC approval. The usage is fairly narrow. It needs to be, there has to be more than an additional 2 million coming in on the federal side, and it needs to be used for a project that is going to be expected to be fully federally funded. Not a change there since Friday. Where we're getting to the big crux of the change is what the language previously said is, so reading everything that's not highlighted, was the prompt reporting requirement. So the agency was required to promptly report the obligation or expenditure of monies under this section to the House and Senate Committees on Transportation and the Joint Fiscal Office while the General Assembly is in session. And then the Joint Fiscal Office, the Joint Fiscal Committee, and the Joint Transportation Oversight Committee otherwise. So JTOC was always going to hear about this. What this language is now doing is it's saying promptly report to the House and Senate Committees on Transportation when the General Assembly is in session, and consistent with 19 VSA section 12B subsection C, which is what creates JTOC, that the agency needs to promptly report any changes in the availability of federal funds and the anticipated obligation or expenditure under the authority of the section to JTOC and the Joint Fiscal Office and the Joint Fiscal Committee. And then in subdivisions B, C, and D, this is our approval process. So if JTOC disapproves of the anticipated obligation, then it needs to provide notice of that disapproval and an explanation for the basis of disapproval to the agency within 30 calendar days following receipt of the report. If JTOC disapproves of that anticipated obligation under subdivision B, then the agency can revise and resubmit for further consideration. And if JTOC doesn't disapprove of the anticipated obligation within 30 days, it's deemed to be approval. And then the Agency of Transportation can proceed. So it's not requiring JTOC to meet if it doesn't disapprove of it. It's setting up this process with 30 days, 30 calendar days to disapprove if JTOC so chooses, and then this presumption of approval. No changes to subsection D. That's
But
this
could you
last-
go back up, please? Not beyond, before the yellow section. About reporting shall promptly, C1, I'm looking at, is that what the agency sent us?
So if you don't see it highlighted, that is
Uh-huh.
what the original language said. So originally it was just.
All right, I'm just looking at the mechanics. They shall promptly report obligation expenditure of monies under the authority. So if they authorize 50,000 under that, they have to report every single time. I'm just wondering the mechanics, what they mean by the obligation or expenditure of monies.
So it's just under this section. So it's just this deviating from the fiscal year 21 and 2022 transportation programs, if there is.
Yeah, it just seems like then they would be reporting, unless they do it as a package proposal to advance. But if they did something sequentially, they could be sending us an awful lot of individual reports of an obligation or an expenditure. I'm not, if they're willing to do that, I expect they're probably thinking that they would do it as a package of projects for a certain amount, but it could mean that if they added just one thing, very modest, they're saying they will report it to us. So I'm just raising that as a question, and I guess I don't know who's listening from the agency, but
Yeah, who, is there anybody from the agency that can respond if Michelle's not at Costas or?
Yep. So Senator, for the record, Costa Pappas with the Agency of Transportation, we're fine with the language. I believe this language was in last year's bill as well on the reporting requirement. And the idea would be if we ended up with significant amount of infrastructure stimulus funding, our kind of intent here is to package our recommendation and then submit the requirement. So this wouldn't be developing projects on a continuous basis for several months. It would be, what can we move forward? And then that would meet the reporting requirement as a bundle.
okay, I would imagine you would bundle it, but I was just thinking that sometimes things get altered and maybe it's not gonna be as dynamic as what we experienced with the federal CRF money, but if your projects probably lend themselves in queue more to bundling than maybe some of the other things that federal required expenditures in other areas of state government. So if I'll let it, it's your language and you understand what it means. So I'm fine with it. I just was hoping that.
Issue and okay, we'll do it. All right.
Okay, and then no change to the time that this remains in effect. It would be in effect until February 1 of 2022. So giving you a little bit of time once you're back in the building.
Okay.
So that's your federal infrastructure language. I have that at a minimum, we are moving the highlighted bit to after the secretary up in subsection A. Are there other changes that you would like to see before tomorrow morning? Okay.
Anything?
I will
No?
move on. So you'll see that in the updated draft. The next language that you see that is deviating slightly from what the committee walked through last week is in the incentive program for new PEVs and Mileage Smart, allowing the authorization to be used in fiscal years 2021 and 2022 combined. And this language is also one of the sections that will now be effective on passage. And this has been flagged for JFO so that that part of the big bill can be made on passage for purposes of this, the appropriation behind this authorization and the one for Mileage Smart. So you'll see that it says for purposes of the whole piece, it's can be used in fiscal years 2021 and 2022 combined. The 250,000 for Drive Electric is only available in fiscal year 2022. So it's just freeing up some of that 3 million to be used in 21 if the program is fully depleted. And I believe when I looked last week, it was under 200,000. So it could be that that really does come into play. And then the editors changed a may to a shall.
I see the new federal bill, the infrastructure bill, they want to put 500,000 charging stations across the country. I don't know how that's all going to coordinate with the states, but that's a big chunk. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so your next bit of new language is going to be in the Mileage Smart section. It will look very familiar. It's saying in fiscal years 2021 and 2022 combined, the authorization is the $750,000 amount. So this is an increase from what the House had, which was 600,000, and allowing it to be used in fiscal year 21 and 2022. And this is section 13. The PEB incentive program was 11. And you'll see if we go all the way to the end that we now have effective dates, section 7, which is the federal infrastructure funding, authorization for the new, for the incentive program for new PEBs, and authorization for Mileage Smart, all taking effect on passage.
So the changes and everything that we've made, because I believe Michelle had mentioned that if Lenny were there, there would have been the reference to joint transportation oversight, which now has been added. So I assume that this addition has been reviewed by the agency as well.
So Michelle got this language on Friday. I don't know if Costa can speak to the full piece. This language without the highlighting is identical to what was used in 2018, and it's very similar to what was used last year. So JTalk was always like in the loop, but there wasn't this approval disapproval process. That is new. I worked on that with Steve and Chris on Friday, and I see Costa has made himself visible.
Yes, Costas.
Yeah, and Michelle not being here, I think she dealt directly with Anthea on this language, but I think we're okay with it.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so your next bit of change language, and I'm just scrolling before I put it up on the screen so we don't have lots of language flying by, is in your section on public transit, and just some commas changed to semicolons in there. The one thing, and I mentioned this in my email yesterday with the updated version, is one of the things that you are doing with this language, and this will be apparent if you look at the side by side, is that in the language that came out of the House, there was nothing about the zero fare being approved by the governing body of the transit agency. So that is a new addition. You'll see that on lines 15 into 16. I didn't highlight it because it's not new to this draft, but I'm flagging for the committee, and I'm actually going to go, it would be the earlier side by side. If you look at the Replace Your Ride program, and I'll scroll up to that, one of the things that is not included in the switch to a mode of transportation that produces fewer greenhouse gas emissions is utilizing public transit. In the version of the Replace Your Ride program that was introduced by the administration, it did include in subdivision large Roman numeral 3 on lines 8 and 9, it said utilizing public transit, shared mobility services or privately operated vehicles for hire. That language was taken out by the House because for fiscal year 2022, there was going to be zero fare public transit. So I think that there could be more swaps that fall under this, and the agency would determine that as part of the administration of the program. But if it is the intent of the General Assembly to say that public transit vouchers should be something that is covered in the Replace Your Ride program as a swap, then I would suggest going back to the administration's proposed language and putting in public transit before shared mobility in this subdivision. So that's hard to see in the progression of the language that you have here, but that is a change that the House made, and they made it because of that fiscal year 2022 zero fare public transit, which this committee is adding an additional piece to with the approval of the governing body. So I'm just flagging it for the committee. You can keep it just as it is, but that was something that I thought might be helpful background information.
Questions? Comments? Okay, all right.
I don't know what harm it does to add it back in. It makes it clear. And just because you can say, well, it doesn't relate to, I suppose you're saying it's session law, so it doesn't matter out into the.
What I'm saying is it says the following qualify as a switch. It doesn't say only the following qualify as a switch. So if the agency, when they start administering this program, go, oh, wow, there's this other switch that we really didn't take into consideration, like walking shoes. I don't know, I'm just making that up. Then maybe that could be something that they provide an incentive for through Replace Your Ride. So it's not being prescriptive and it's saying it's only these things that an incentive can be provided for. But the administration's intent with this language was public transit vouchers would be something that would be available to people who replace their ride by getting rid of this lower efficiency internal combustion engine vehicle.
I don't see any problem with making it explicit. It assumes that the whoever is reading it knows that that's zero fare is in place for this fiscal year. It's not worth spending a lot of time on, but I don't know. That's just my thought. I don't think Andy cares. Russ doesn't care. I don't know what happened to Senator Chittenden.
I think he's in Senate Natural.
Oh,
I don't care. I think it's fine
to add it or leave it out?
to leave it out, to have it the way it is.
Okay.
So I'll leave it out.
We're leaving it out because we don't care.
I don't think it's going to matter.
Okay. So I think that is it in terms of highlighted changes. You have section 26, that's with Senate Finance this afternoon. Oh, there is one more change. So I have deleted from section 32, which was the work zone highway safety. Subsection A used to include I think it was 3 legislative findings. Subsection A has been deleted and it is now redesignated accordingly. So you just have the 3 subsections in there.
So that section's gone. So we're not reading their license plates?
No, you're still doing the study. There's no reading of license plates, but you're getting a report back from the Agency of Transportation in advance of next session, so that maybe there would be a proposal for a pilot program or full program.
We're leaving it in their hands to come up with some thoughts to give back. Okay, but meanwhile, there's not recording any license plates that went through. Okay.
No,
I think what you said, the main thing is we remove findings because we don't do findings as a matter of practice.
Yeah, the only thing that's been removed is the findings, but the progression of language was the administration proposed a pilot program, the House shifted it to a study with findings. You have it as a study, identical without the findings. So the only recording of license plate images that can happen right now under law is through ALPR, the Automated License Plate Recognition System. That is regulated in statute, section 1607, 1608. I believe only the DMV is using it and they're using it in read-only mode, and that is set to sunset next July. And that's the thing that you re-up every 2 years. So that is no deviation from current law in terms of the use of this technology at present. And that's it for me. Those were all of the changes that were made. I have the one that I'm going to make for the version that you'll see tomorrow. And then we'll see what happens with your 3 outstanding sections.
What's the one in finance? What do we got there? We got,
That's the PEV rate setting. It's requiring the electric distribution utilities to, by June of 2024, offer, well, it says implement, but there's the language they'll see says offer, to offer the PEV rates that are designed to do a number of different things, manage grid load, and then also encourage the adoption of PEVs. It doesn't require the usage of the rates. It just requires that they're offered. It grandfathers in some of the rates that are currently available from 2 of the larger electric distribution utilities, but with a narrow band for which rates are available. And then it also sets up a process where you can get an exemption from needing to go through the rate setting process based on the financial situation. And then that was a request from the smaller distribution utilities. So that's Senate Finance is taking it up this afternoon. I don't know if they're going to get to hear from all of the electric distribution utilities like you did, just from a scheduling perspective.
is that yours, Senator Perchlik? Is that one you're following through?
Yeah, and they're going to hear from Anthea and Riley today, and I'm hoping just based on those 2 people, they can decide that we can keep it in there. And then if they have, because you want to vote on this tomorrow?
I'd like, yeah, it's, Jane said Wednesday and we're
Yeah,
I think we're close. I mean, I think we're right there, aren't we?
yeah.
I don't think we got much more to discuss. I can't think of anything else that we want to add or subtract.
'Cause
So
it's-
Yeah.
we're waiting
No.
to hear from finance.
Yeah.
We have a commitment that natural resources will look at that Act
Right.
250.
Yeah, we're all
piece.
set with that. Yeah.
So that's closed out.
Closed out. Michelle has already done that.
Well, why did Senator Chittenden still go, or
Yeah.
they just still wanted to hear from him? I didn't know why he would
I
still have
thought,
gone.
I thought it was over, to be honest with you, because Michelle had withdrawn it with the anticipation of doing it next January.
Mhm.
The chair has called me and said that he's on board for next January. So I thought it's over. That's the final word I got
Yeah.
from Michelle, that
It's-
she's on it.
And it's over in which way? That we took the language out about exempting them from the Act 250, or?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And then it'll go through the process, and it's a little too late now because, we didn't have a lot of testimony, to be honest. And I don't know if that's my fault or not, but
No, I think, Senator Mazza,
Yeah.
if in fact they want to go ahead with it again next year,
Yeah.
it seems to me the proposal should be made in the House as they're taking
Right,
up the T
right,
bill.
right.
This year, I don't believe,
It wouldn't have went through that. We wouldn't have went through conference committee anyway. I don't think. No, I don't.
well, my only point is, I don't know, maybe Anthea can correct this. Was the proposal made to the House Transportation Committee on the Act 250 and they decided not to deal with it? My impression was it was presented to us by the time the bill came.
I
And
understand.
my only
Bill
point
passed the
is,
House. Yeah.
I think that the administration should, recognizing the T-bill starts in the House, should make a proposal of this nature in the T-bill as they present it, and the House Natural Resources Committee would also have the opportunity, not just on the Senate side, because it's going to require both of those committees to weigh in. So I'm glad we're taking it out. It'll give more time, but my hope is that if the agency wants to pursue this again next year, they would include that language in the T-bill as it is presented, and that would give the House an opportunity to consider it right from the get-go.
No, you're right. Exactly. Yep.
You're right. And I want to thank Senator Kitchell for making this.
I want to thank Senator
Oh, God.
Perchlik and Senator
Did
Mazza
I-
for recognizing.
Why did I
Senator
say that?
Mitchell
I
was
can't
right.
believe I said it. Oh my God. All right. All right.
And I would like to thank the chair, and I would like to thank our newest members for everything, and Senator Perchlik for
Yeah.
going in, and Anthea
Yeah.
and Liz and
Yeah.
Chris. I'd just like to thank everybody. Uh-huh. For making my
Happy
life.
family.
Huh? Yeah.
It's okay. What else we have? Anything else that anybody thought about that we should be? Anthea has done a remarkable job, seriously, in putting us all together. Is there anything else that you can think of that I or did not think about the agency?
I got nothing. I'm gonna turn my video off.
No. Okay.
Okay.
No. I think we've got a good bill. So with that, Senator Kitchell, anything else you want from this bill before it goes to appropriations? Other than
No, so the only thing we're waiting for is finance. Is that
That's correct.
right?
that's what
okay.
Senator Pertzik has said today.
Okay.
So we'll do that. With that in mind, I don't know of anything else we have to act on today.
Well, as long as all the money sections and, we've got the effective dates already incorporated, it just allows some of that work to get done. And then when we get the last section closed out, but if everything else is closed out, then we can, Wednesday will be fine.
So we
Yeah.
agreed basically with the House's version. Just looking back on it, I'm just looking to see just where this goes from here because it's my first time through it. Will it go to a conference committee? Is there a
Doesn't
need
have
for it?
to. It
Okay.
doesn't have to. Sometimes
Yeah,
you can come to mutual agreement.
I talked to, I have talked to Diane Lampier, the chair of the House. She called me over the weekend and she seems to think we've got a pretty good bill. I don't think there's going to be a lot of differences, and there'll be some small stuff, I'm sure, but like always, but she'll be very good to work with, I think. And her and Butch, I think Butch is there. And but anyway, that's about all I know right now. So if anybody has anything else, I don't think. Yes, Senator Perchlik.
Regarding finance languages, so I think what I heard was that they weren't going to be able to get to the utilities today. They're just going to hear from the department and from Anthea. But I'm hoping they feel confident enough to allow us just to keep it in there. And then if they see some little tweak they want to make to the language, they could do that on the floor. Is that okay for me to tell the chair, Senator Cummings?
I think that would be all right, don't you, Jane?
Yeah, in other words, if they came up with something, we would just do an amendment when the bill comes out at second reading. Yeah.
Meanwhile, can we ask Anthea to put it all, finish everything that we finished today? We've finished it all, right? Get a clean draft and get ready for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can get that to you now. I've taken out the Act 250 language and reshifted the last two section numbers accordingly, and I moved that one clause in section 7. I still have the PEV rate setting language highlighted in green, just as a sort of reminder to everyone. It's with Senate Finance, but I'll recirculate that, within a
Now,
minute or two.
what I will speak to the folks, so I hope Senator Chitna will be here. Once we get it all, we'll section it off into different sections to report. And we'll ask the agency to give us a backup of all the sections like they usually do. They'll give me an overview of the whole bill, which I will start off with, and then we'll designate different sections of the bill that you can look at, see what you'd like to report. There will be a couple hot ones probably, but other than that, I don't think it should be that bad. So with that in mind, I don't think, Costas, if you're still with us, you can start thinking about the reporting the sections, please, like you usually do every year, and give me an overdraft, the whole bill, and then we'll have the section back up, and then we'll designate them to whoever offers to take the different sections.
Yep, we will, Senator.
Okay, like you always do. I appreciate that. Anything else this morning that we can discuss before we give you time for a big caucus, Jane? First, like,
Senator Naz, are we expecting like this week or next week to shut down the morning committees, or when are we expecting?
I don't know what Jane, you probably know more about this. I don't know. We won't have a lot to do other than if there's a conference committee, and we're waiting for the miscellaneous bill to come over from the House. I think they should be ready with that to send it over from motor vehicle DMV. Other than that, I don't know of anything else they're sending over. I don't think there's any other bills.
S47, looks like will pass.
That's 47,
That's
okay.
the electric vehicle manufacturer service.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Did they have an issue with something in that bill or no? Is that, did I hear?
I testified in Commerce, and there were some concerns, but I heard through the grapevine that they were okay. But
Okay, I thought I don't know somebody said they had something to do with, but it wasn't the sale. It was something else, but I can't remember who said something about that. But anyway, we can follow that when we come back with it.
does Anthea, do you know if they're proposing any changes to S47?
They took testimony this morning. Costa gave a very rushed version of his presentation, and I sort of wish he had gotten to go first because I think there was some confusion about laws in other states, and the committee just needed a little bit of a refresher. They're taking it back up this afternoon. They're hearing from the Attorney General's office, from the Consumer Protection Division. I'm going to be there again. So I don't know what they're going to do. I think originally they were a little thrown by the structure on the collection of proposals by the DMV, as opposed to there being some sort of study committee with a recommendation on legislation. And, just it looks different than other ways, but it's dealing with a relationship between two entities that are highly sophisticated and work with each other all the time. And maybe hearing their proposals is, the right approach here, as this committee suggested. So it'll be interesting to see what the discussion this afternoon is. And then they're having the same conversations that you guys had about level playing fields and wanting to, not change the dynamic between the dealers and the manufacturers, and a new business model, and what are other states doing, and what's the best approach. And oh wait, every state's doing something different. So it's been an interesting discussion to listen to. And I don't know if Costa has more to add. He was actually in the room.
Getting back to our morning committees, I don't think, I think next week we'll have a hit and miss, but after that, I think it'll be shut down, don't you, Jane?
I thought morning committees, the only ones that really have a lot of trouble would be judiciary, simply because of the volume of bills.
Yeah.
But the normal practice is we shut down, and
Right, yeah.
it would be very helpful to me because it's really designed so that the money chairs can have, those two committees can have the time to do their work.
Yep. No, that's good. I like I said, I said to Liz this morning, I don't know exactly, but I'm sure we only got hits and misses after this, and we'll, I don't think there's a lot on the docket. So with that, any other questions this morning? If
I
not,
got a couple towns. It's too late
Sure.
to the party.
Yep.
It really is. Yeah, I got a couple towns questioning why their state aid went down to between 25 and 40%. Again, it's really, really, really late in the day on that. But I just bring it up so I could say that I brought it up. Also, the thing that will get us through on that is the extra money's coming from the feds to those towns as well. So I think they'll be okay as far as their monies before it's all said and done. But it was brought
Is
to my
that because
attention.
of the infusion of one-time money on town highway aid?
It really isn't, because I justified it. I went and I looked at the 7 million that was there last year and the 3 million there this year. And I'm looking at all of my Orleans towns, 1, 2, 3, and the 5 of them, most of them are up, which I can't argue about that, but 5 of them are down. From Newport City being down 46,000, and then a couple smaller towns, one's 14,000. Barton Village is 14,000. Orleans is part of Barton Village, but their
Yeah.
own separate entity. They're down 4,000. So between that community, they're down $18,000, and then Derby Line's down almost 11,000. So
I would think that would be driven by that doubling up, or that 7 million last year
I know.
that was one time, which that just reinforces our earlier discussion about, even though you say it's one time and you
Right.
revert back to the base,
And
it
and
gets,
I agree with that, Jane, and I do, but then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 towns in Orleans County that they went up over last year.
okay, well, it's hard to,
Yeah, I know, it's I just can't get it through my brain what the formula is on that.
It's
I see-
mileage.
Yeah, it is, but nobody's changed any mileage on it. I just don't, again, it's late to the party. I'm only bringing it up.
Have you asked the agency for some information and backup?
Well, I think that the towns are actually working with AOT on it as well, and I was expecting to maybe to have somebody see us today on it, but nobody's gotten to it. Nobody got to us, so I kind of left it in their hands because they were talking with AOT. So
Costas, are you listening to this one? Yeah.
Yes, Senator, I will look into this myself,
yeah,
and get back to you.
it's typically Orleans County, Costas, and the ones and the two towns that I'm probably the two entities that I'm three really. One would be Barton Village, Orleans Village, and Newport City are the three that are. And then while I'm at it, I might as well go with Craftsbury and North Troy. Those are the 5 towns out of 25, 26 towns that are down, or villages or whatever they are. They're down and everybody else is up. So if we could look at that, I would appreciate it very much.
If it gets to the point, Russ, you can have the agency respond to these towns, instead of you.
It's just hard to figure out. If we gave a 7
It
million
is.
bump, everybody should be up. And then
Exactly.
everybody should be down because it was one
Exactly.
time.
Exactly.
But I don't know whether they're factoring in what the House did, which gave more for town highway aid versus our approach of doing structures and class 2 roadway. So if they're adding in or assuming that we're agreeing with the House, maybe that's part of what's happening here.
I was really kind of hoping that they were just preliminary numbers and maybe there was some defect in reporting. And that would be the best solution, but I appreciate it, Costas, very much that you're looking at it.
I will, and I'll report back immediately, Senator.
Thank you very much.
Liz, you can take us off.